the place you gotta be, where movies, shows, and games light up your fantasy. Slav's behind the mic, he's got a vibe so
Oh, Captain, my Captain. What's going on, everybody? It's another episode of Slav's Free Talk Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Star Wars. Is it in free fall? We got a little article to talk about in that regard. I know, guys, Star Wars, I know. We got some Marvel rumors when it comes to the X-Men. Could they be casting their X-Men already? That's an interesting discussion. We're also going to talk about some DCU rumors when it comes to Clayface. That's right. Are they getting close to casting Clayface? Man, I can't talk. That's a tongue twister there. But the bulk of this show is going to be a discussion, non-spoiler and spoiler-esque, of Captain America Brave New World. So sit back, guys. Let's get into it. This should be a fun one. Obviously, if you have anything you want to say, feel free to throw it in the chat. Let's see who's all here today. We got Xander. I have returned, he says. Yes, you have. Like a prayer intensifies with angelic choir. Amazing. Derpy Entertainment, Slav, my glorious king. Jalen Harris, hey Slav. Hope for Life says, I have not seen Captain America. That's okay. Like I said, there's gonna be a little bit of spoilers that I will discuss later on in the show. So if you don't want to stick around for that, when we get to that part, you can walk away at that time. But I will discuss it in spoilery-ish terms for the beginning of my review there, for sure. Let's see. Otito's here. Let's see. Derpy also says, I said it best, Slav. If Captain America can be successful, Superman should be just fine. That's one way to put it. I'm going to discuss something very similar to your sentiment there later on. Jalen says, you're talking to Hope for Life there, so I'm not going to bring that up. Otito says, Slav, this parasitic hate is strong with Brave New World. It's getting out of control. I'm seeing it everywhere. People need to chill out. I'm seeing Brave New World more times than the actual Meh New World. Oh, Meh New World more times than the actual name. Well, I mean, it's all subjective. But we'll get to what my true feelings are on the movie in a little bit. I do want to talk about the few topics that I mentioned here before we get into that. A little house cleaning, though, before we move on. Obviously, the Discord, guys. Check out the Discord. I'm trying to build this little community. I do see Xander's in here. He's been talking. I got some other people that have been doing some talking. Trayvon's in there. Mickey Mac. Jay Burns is in there. So we got some people jumping in, talking some things. Look, I want this to, like I said, I want that to be a fun community, similar to what you guys do over here in the chat on a weekly and bi-weekly basis, or twice a week, whatever. It would be twice a week, not bi-weekly, because that would be every other week. But anyways, how you guys do for both my shows throughout the week, where you guys sit there and talk, I would like the community on the Discord to be similar in that regard. So hit up the Discord. It is in the description, the link for it. Join the Discord now. And I don't know if you guys saw this. I do have a website. I don't push it that hard because it really isn't as active as I want it to be. I only have so much time in a day, in a week, in a month. So I don't have enough time to write articles like I want to. I love writing, but I just don't have enough time to do it. But I am looking for people to help out with the website. If you're interested in writing or learning how to write articles and blogs and just kind of do that whole thing, we are looking for some help. A couple people that would be willing to maybe, just take a day or two out of their week to put one or two articles up each week on slavsfreetalk.com. I'd be willing to help you kind of tune in your skills in that regard, just to kind of contribute to the site and throw up some articles, opinion pieces, news articles, rumor mills, that kind of stuff. Just kind of get the site moving and rolling along. It could then, possibly throw you guys up on the show here with me and have discussions on the show and stuff like that about those articles. So it's a possibility. If that's something you want to do, you can head to the website and check out what I would need from you there, or you can just look here. It's just an idea. slavsfreetalk.com to get more information on that. Okay, guys? Cool. Cool. All right. So that's all the house cleaning for today for now. First story, Star Wars. I like to start the week off with Star Wars. I like to. All right. So Skeleton Crew has been confirmed to be a failure, which is, I think it's disappointing because I thought Skeleton Crew was a fun little show. But this coming from that Park Place, it is stating that no episodes made it onto the Nielsen ratings chart as the post Acolyte fan apathy buries Star Wars. So it's official. They say Skeleton Crew is a flop. It has become the lowest performing Star Wars project to date. Not a single episode made it into the Nielsen streaming rating charts. At first, pointed out by Cosmic Book News, even with all 8 episodes released, there was no late surge from binge watchers. This marks a sharp contrast from previous Star Wars series, even those considered underwhelming. In the week that Skeleton Crew Episode 8 premiered, the number 10 spot on the Nielsen ratings chart went to Apple TV Silo with 396 million minutes viewed. Since Skeleton Crew didn't appear on the chart, its finale clearly failed to reach even that low bar. And because Nielsen measures total minutes for all episodes watched during a week, it's evident that Skeleton Crew failed to generate any significant binge watching activity. Here's the crazier thing. For perspective, even The Acolyte premiered with 488 million minutes for its first 2 episodes, averaging 244 million per episode. Andor, a series praised by critics but considered a slow-paced niche show, debuted with 624 million minutes across 3 episodes, averaging 208 million per episode. Yet Skeleton Crew premiered with 2 episodes, failed to clear even 191 million minutes per episode. So I'm going to leave it there. We could go further into the numbers and stuff. But what I really want to talk about here specifically is how we're seeing the Acolyte effect in full force. Essentially, the Acolyte did so much damage to the brand, to Star Wars, that nobody even gave Skeleton Crew a shot. Because if people did go give that show a shot, if they would have actually sat down and said, you know what, let's check this show out, I think they would have realized, hey, I think this show is actually pretty good. Let's continue watching it. This is one of the things that I say all the time is, and I said this about The Acolyte, if a show is good, it's going to do well. The problem is you need to get eyes on it. And it kind of goes both ways. So if you have eyes on it and the show is bad, the viewership goes down, such as The Acolyte. The Acolyte was not good. Viewers were watching it. It was a bad show. The eyes went down, like the viewership went down. Then there were no eyes on Skeleton Crew, so viewership didn't go up. Viewership just kind of was stagnant. It just didn't do well. And that's kind of the disappointing thing. There was no hype behind it. Nobody was watching it. Nobody cares about Star Wars right now. And that's just crazy. What has Disney done to Star Wars? Like think about it. People love to sit there and say, well, George Lucas, look what he did to the prequels. He divided the fan base. Star Wars was never, ever in as bad of a place as it is today under George Lucas. Ever. No matter how much you want to sit there and say that the prequel trilogy was bad, or you think the prequel trilogy was bad, or it was terrible, or you had Mannequin Skywalker, I hate sand, or stuff like that. I don't care. You can go and complain about all that all you want, but it's never been as bad as it is today when it comes to the reception or how people take it in or how they look at it. People do not care about Star Wars. Sure, you have the diehard fans like me. You have the people who will sit there and hashtag renew the Acolyte. You have the people who love the sequels. You have the people who love the OT and the prequels. But you don't have the general audience's attention anymore. You don't have those people who see Star Wars pop up and say, I need to check that out. You don't have that anymore. Why? Is it oversaturation, or is it just been that it's been too much crap for too long? I'm going to lean on that it's been too much crap for too long because it has been oversaturation because we haven't been getting a lot. I don't know. I think it's the Acolyte effect. I think the Acolyte was the final straw. I think that was it. I think how bad the Acolyte truly was, you're going to see it hitting the next few projects over a while. Now, what's that going to do for The Mandalorian and Grogu? Well, I don't think it's going to do anything because that has a solid fan base. People know what that is. People were excited and have liked it for a number of years, but they're not trusting anything new. Skeleton Crew was new. They don't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. They didn't understand it. They don't know why it was. Just like the Acolyte. They're not going to trust anything new. And that's the problem right now. Let me know your thoughts. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. It is really, really interesting. All right. Jalen always getting upset. Damn it. Star Wars news. Derpy Entertainment says, Acolyte sucked too. It sure did. Sure did. Xander goes, Slav, if you'd like, you may use my little message or rant on Twitter for yourself. Like, okay. Mano's time. Hey, Slav, hope you're great. I'm down to help with your website. Okay, man. Like, yeah. Go to the website. There's instructions on what to do. I want to make sure we do it the right way. So, all right. What else do we got here? Derpy says the forced diversity, the last feminist, and the rise of equality. Yeah, I went there. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, Derpy. You're not wrong. Trayvon, remember when Star Wars was still in the hands of independent studio? I miss those days. I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, yeah, Lucasfilm was technically an independent studio, yes, but I mean, George Lucas and Lucasfilm was as much as big as big of an independent studio as big as it could get. Like, yes, it was an independent studio, but he was a big independent studio, if that makes sense, if you know what I'm trying to say there. Like, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Derpy says, remember when the toys marketing was better back in the... Oh, man, you have no idea. I miss the old Star Wars toys and marketing. I miss those days. That George Lucas was so good at the marketing and the toys. He was. Critic Chris asks, what's with the hate on George Lucas anyways? I hear people complain about the prequel trilogy was bad, it sucked, etc. So did fans not want episodes 1 through 3 to wrap up the original? No. So, Critic, I don't know how old you are. I was a teenager when the prequel started. I was 18, 19 when they ended. And I loved them. Granted, The Phantom Menace, I loved when it first came out, but as I started getting older, I was like, it's not really great. It did exactly what we wanted it to do to a certain degree. The fans didn't like it because it wasn't what it didn't live up to what they had in their imaginations in their heads. So because it didn't live up to that in their heads, they complained about it. Now, over time, people started to appreciate it more because of the lore that expanded it outside of it, like the Clone Wars cartoon and the expanded universe books and stuff like that. People were able to appreciate the prequels even more. But people had a problem with the acting, and George Lucas isn't a great writer, and he wrote all 3 of them. He directed all 3 of them. He's not a great director. When you take a look at the original trilogy, while George Lucas wrote and directed A New Hope, he wrote the story treatments for the next 2, but he did not write the next 2. He did not direct the next 2. He had writers and directors come in and write those and direct those. So he was heavily involved with those next 2 films, but it wasn't all him, whereas the next while episodes 1 through 3 were. So there was a lot of that kind of going on when you had someone like George Lucas. He wanted full control, everything. He wanted just to be him, only him. And I kind of agree with that. I think if he would have kind of kept his hands off just a little bit, like if he would have wrote them and had maybe a better writer come in and do a second pass or a third pass and help him out a little bit, it would have gotten better. And the reason why I say that, a lot of people don't know this, but Steven Spielberg, who wasn't actually allowed to work on these films with him due to some kind of DGA rules. He actually did. There's rumor, but it's pretty much confirmed. You can actually see it in some of the shots in the movie. Steven Spielberg actually helped George Lucas in some directing aspects of Revenge of the Sith. Specifically, one scene, if you watch the scene when in the beginning of the movie when they crash the ship on Coruscant, it is 100% when they're crashing. That is a Steven Spielberg shot. Like it is 100% a Steven Spielberg shot where the camera zooms in on them when they're sitting in on the bridge. That is 100% a Steven Spielberg shot. But Steven Spielberg, it's rumored that he helped George Lucas in directing that movie. And you can kind of see because it is a much better directed film and it is received so much better. So that's kind of the reason why people are on George Lucas for the prequels. Oculus Cypher, what is going on? Hello, did I miss anything? No, we just talked Star Wars. About to move on to the next topic here. No worries. You guys are talking about lightsabers and stuff. Xander says, may not be a Star Wars fan, but their fan base is just as bad as DC's. Their fan base is pretty bad, for sure. Yeah, I compare the two a lot myself. I do compare the two myself. All right, moving on up to the east side. All right, again, coming from that Park Place, rumor, X-Men cast rumors make the rounds online. Actors could be set for Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, and more. So this is interesting. This is very, very interesting because we know that X-Men are going to be making their big MCU entrance. Like, yeah, we've seen Beast, we've seen Deadpool, Wolverine, that kind of stuff in the MCU. But we also know that they're going to be pushing the mutant saga after all this multiverse, Secret Invasion, and all that kind of stuff. Not Secret Invasion, Secret War stuff. Well, could they be introducing them sooner? Could Secret Wars really be introducing them? So, according to the movie website World of Real, Marvel Studios added 2 untitled movies to its roster. One of them will be the X-Men reboot, according to them. Now, if that's the case, they obviously are going to be, casting for this movie. The Film and Television Industry Alliance lists an untitled X-Men reboot feature film in its database. The page labels the project as in development pre-production with film projected to start October 6, 2025, which is crazy if you think about it, because if it starts this year in October, what are they? I mean, are they going to have it in post-production for 2 years? Like, are they going to release X-Men before the multiverse saga is over? Like, that's crazy to me because the multiverse saga isn't going to end until 2027, right? So, right, is that right? Because Doomsday comes out 2026, Secret Wars 2027, or did that get pushed to 2028? Now I can't remember. Now. But I mean, okay, let's just keep moving on here. So, the casting. Harris Dickinson is reportedly being considered for the role of Scott Summers. That's coming from Jeff Snyder. Then you have Sadie Sink is reportedly the front runner for Jean Grey. Now, you may know Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. So those are kind of a couple names that we're seeing pop up here. Now, a lot of people still think that Hugh Jackman's going to be sticking around for a while as X-Men, as Wolverine. There we go. Man, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think if he's around, he'll probably be in Secret Wars, and that's it. I think that is that going to be a swan song? Maybe he gets one other film or one other appearance after that, but I don't think he's going to be around much longer after Secret Wars if he is around after that. But there's also another star, Julia Butters, could be tapped to play Kitty Pryde. She's going to be in Freakier Friday, which comes out later this year. So there's a good bit of noise going on around X-Men. And you know how my feelings about Jeff Snyder. I don't sit there and take what he says seriously all the time because I don't really trust him completely. I don't trust any scooper completely, but there is some noise and there is something to talk about when it comes to X-Men. And it's exciting because I think we're all ready. I think that's the thing. Like, honestly, like at this point, I think Deadpool and Wolverine, in my opinion, was a fitting bookend to all of the old X-Men stuff. And I don't think a lot of people look at it that way, but the more I watch and look at that, I kind of feel like, you know what? If we never got another Hugh Jackman Wolverine movie, if we never got another Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie, if we never got any of the old X-Men to show up in anything ever again, I'm happy. I'm happy that Deadpool and Wolverine was the final act in all of those Fox X-Men movies. I think it was a perfectly fine fitting end for all of them. I do. I would be okay with that. Now, I know a lot of you fans out there are going to be like, well, that's not fair. I want to see more Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. I want to see this. I want to see that. But I'm on this train where I think the MCU should just start fresh with all of them. All of them. I am. And the more that there's this talk about Secret War kind of doing a soft reboot after it's all done. There's that rumor it's going to be a soft reboot. If that's the case, why would you then bring back a Hugh Jackman into the mix? Why not go younger at that time? Why bring in Ryan Reynolds, who's 50 years old himself? Why bring in, a James McAvoy or anything those are the characters, those are the actors. Like at that point, just leave them be. They're gone. Bring in younger ones. Bring in somebody new to let them create a version of the character at this point. I think that's the best way to go. Now, I think Sadie Sink, I think she'd do well as Jean Grey. Not my first choice, but I think she'd do fine. I have no idea who this Harris Dickinson is. He could probably do fine. But again, let's see what happens. I think it's interesting because it's sounding like this X-Men movie is probably ramping up to start production sooner rather than later. I'm shocked that we haven't heard any director information, any writer information, anything like that. Maybe at whether it's a Comic-Con this year or D23 this year, we get more information. Maybe we hear something, but maybe not. I don't know. But let me know your thoughts about all of this. It's crazy. It's interesting. I think things are starting to ramp up more as they start to put the multiverse saga in the rearview mirror and the mutant saga more in the forefront. They've put Joe and Anthony Russo kind of in the driver's seat of everything that's going on right now. So I think Feige's like, look, you guys got this. I'm going to start focusing over here. Maybe it's for the best. I don't know. We'll see. I just want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. All right. What are you guys saying over here? You guys keep saying he's going to be around until he's 90. He's not. Derby says, stay away, Sadie. I want her as someone in the DCU. Who do you want her as in the DCU? Let's see. The Watcher. I love all the cats so far. For this, literally perfect in my opinion, at least so far. Hopefully they keep it up. I mean, it's not confirmed. Trayvon, sometimes I'd like to envision the MCU beginning with New Line Cinema's Blade, Fox's X-Men, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Elektra, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and even Ang Lee's Hulk before the Avengers 4. Jeez. I mean, I guess in a way you can because of the multiverse, and they've already established that all these characters are all of those versions are a part of the multiverse in some form or fashion. So, yeah, I mean, you can kind of say, yes, Blade from the 90s is part of the MCU. You can do that. Yeah, Derpy. Sadie as Barbara Gordon. I could go for that. Young Barbara Gordon. I don't even think you even need to say young. I think she could play Barbara Gordon as is. I think she's in her 20s. And you figure Dick Grayson could probably be in his mid-20s. She could probably play 23, 24-year-old Barbara Gordon. Why not? You don't need anybody older. Xander Wiles says, the multiversal stuff is cool and all, but we need originality back. I mean, they could have had originality with the multiverse. They just didn't do it. I don't know why. Trayvon also says, considering that Ryan Reynolds is in knee-deep hot water thanks to his lovely wife, I highly doubt he'll continue on his look, guys, if you don't know what Trayvon's talking about here, that whole situation is absurd. It is crazy. Yeah, my fiance, she is heavily involved with this whole thing, like reading and watching stuff about it, and it's crazy what's going on with Ryan Reynolds and his wife and her co-star on the latest movie that came. Oh man, and it's crazy. Like it's absolutely crazy. And Ryan Reynolds got involved, and now there's a lawsuit, and it's nuts. It's all alleged though. It's all alleged. Nothing is. It's crazy. Oh man. Yeah, he may not ever be Deadpool again because of it. That's a possibility. Critic Chris says, I think MCU's after credits grow tiresome for myself and others. I think few of them had nothing to build up to future films anyways. True. Mm-hmm. The Watcher says, here's something I don't feel like people recognize yet. The multiverse, Disney, ongoing. I don't know what you're trying to say there, Watcher. I'm sorry. Trayvon says, Hulk was better in the hands of Universal. Well, they did one thing, or two, technically. Man of its time. I feel like Marvel doesn't want to create stars, but hire stars. DC is taking the opposite approach by creating stars first. Well, Marvel wasn't like that at first. I mean, you take a look, go back to the beginning of the MCU, and they took a real chance. Look, no doubt about it, Robert Downey Jr. used to be a star, the 90s, early 2000s, but he messed his whole life up. And he was a risk to take him on. The amount of the insurance that Marvel, it wasn't Marvel at the time, was it Paramount? I think the amount of money that Paramount had to pay in insurance for Robert Downey Jr. was astronomical because you couldn't trust because of his alcohol abuse and everything like that. It was a big risk for them to bring Robert Downey Jr. on to play Iron Man. Huge risk. Then you had Chris Evans. He was a known actor, but he wasn't a big name. You then had Chris Hemsworth, who before that, I think his biggest role was playing Captain Kirk's dad in Star Trek. That was before Thor, wasn't it? I think so. That was his biggest role before that. Then you had Tom Hiddleston in Thor as well, which I never even heard of him or knew who he was before that. Heck, I didn't even know who Tom Hiddleston was until Avengers. Like I knew like he was in Thor, but I didn't even realize who he was and know the name until Avengers. Scarlett Johansson, like she was just the girl from that movie with Bill Murray that was in Tokyo, whatever it was. I can't think of it right now. Then you have what was the other Hawkeye, his name there, whatever his name is. I had no idea who he was. So like they built up the Avengers with basically a bunch of unknowns except for one. Mark Ruffalo was probably the biggest name they had. And it was supposed to be Edward Norton, who was a bigger name. So, they really built the MCU off of no names. And then they continued to do that. I mean, you take a look at Guardians of the Galaxy. All of them, with the exception of the voice, like Bradley Cooper's kind of big for Rocket. Vin Diesel was kind of big, but Zoe Saldana, whatever her name is, she was a big name, but not like a household name. Chris Pratt, he was getting big because of Parks and Rec, but wasn't a huge name. Even Paul Rudd, while he was known around, he wasn't a leading man. He was never a leading man for anything. So they built up, but once they got to a certain size, you start to like, hey, we can hire big names. We can hire Michael Douglas. We can hire Rene Russo. We can hire, Rene Russo was in Thor, but we can hire these big names, these bigger names that people will notice. And a good example is Benedict Cumberbatch. Let's not forget that they went for Queen Phoenix for Doctor Strange. That's who they went for and he was all but signed on the dotted line. And that's a huge name. And they were able to get somebody that big because of how big they were at that point in time. And Benedict Cumberbatch, he was pretty big at the time too. He wasn't no slouch of an actor. So, they're able to do that. It's all what all studios do. Once they get established and they have a good run of films and they can start like, hey, big actor, look at what our studios can do. Look at what our studio can do. And they do that. But I think they then started, you can tell like over the last 5 years, take a look at someone like Iman Vellani, Zoshi Gomez, even what's her face? Who plays the girl Hawkeye. She's a big name in the music world, but as an actress, she wasn't huge. So again, they're looking at the younger stars, not big names. That's all. So I get what you're saying. DC is doing it the right way, starting out in the beginning, as they should. You get a few big names to fill in around the lesser known, the names that aren't known. I kind of went on a tangent there. Sorry, guys. What are we saying here? Xander says, no one can be better Deadpool than the one who started his cinematic saga, Ryan Reynolds. Well, technically, Deadpool was meant to be Ryan Reynolds, if I'm not mistaken. When they finally unmasked him in the comics, they designed him to look like Ryan Reynolds, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's right, if I'm remembering correctly. Or there was something mentioned in the comics or something like that he looked like Ryan Reynolds. So it was always meant to be like a Ryan Reynolds type of character. So, okay. Let's move on. Jalen Harris is screaming at us. DC news. Okay. All right. Here it is. DC news. Clayface. DC Studios is looking for, interesting, an A-list actor between the age of 30 and 40 to play Clayface, who will appear in multiple projects. It's funny that it's just an A-list actor when we were just talking about, you don't need A-list actors. But this is coming from Daniel RPK. Now, what's interesting about this is we also heard about a day or two before this that Clayface is being described as a Hollywood horror story that follows a B-movie actor who injects himself with a substance to keep himself relevant. Now, they're looking at directors. J.A. Bayona, who is from Society of the Snow, was eyed to direct, and Jeff Wadlow was reportedly never in the mix. And that's coming from Hollywood, from View email from Hollywood Report. I don't know. Anyways, so that is what's kind of going on with Clayface right now. Now, it's probably going to start filming later this year, which is exciting. I'm excited. Clayface, I think, is going to be awesome. I know a lot of people are like, why did they make a Clayface? Blah, blah, blah. I still am holding to this that I think they're going to try and build up around the Batman universe because they can't make a Batman movie yet, or they're not ready to make a Batman movie. So they're going to build around it. So maybe they can have Batman like sneak in the movie at some point or something like that. But either way, this sounds almost directly from that one story from Batman the Animated Series, which is one of the best stories on that show, where the actor he's putting the cream on his face because he's trying to stay relevant, and if he doesn't, then he just looks ugly and stuff like that. That sounds exactly almost what this is. I'm all for it. Then you have people who are freaking out because it sounds like a movie, I guess. There's a movie called Substance that came out a couple years ago or a year or so ago. It was a horror film, and now they're like trying to say, oh, they're stealing this idea from that horror film. Well, first off, you can clearly go back to Batman the Animated Series and see that this story was in Batman the Animated Series. Whether it was in comic, I don't ever remember seeing it in a comic, but again, I don't read every single comic that comes out. So whether it was in comics or not, but I think it's cool. Now, let's talk about A-list actors real quick here. What kind of A-list actor do you want to see in this role? That's an interesting, very, very interesting discussion. Derpy Entertainment already jumped the gun here. He goes, Comic Book Nostalgia just posted a video of maybe casting of James McAvoy as Clayface. That would be a damn good casting. You have no idea how good of a casting that would be. Because you then sit there and you think about his role in Split and Glass, and then you think of Clayface and just how he would have to have almost like this split personality, mentality to him because of him losing his mind, because he's, so like you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect. That kind of, I think that would be fantastic. And James McAvoy, I think, is an awesome choice for it. Honestly, that is a great choice. Now I don't want anybody but James McAvoy for it. No, nobody can tell me anybody else. Nobody can tell me anybody else. So Jalen Harris says Will Smith. That's funny. Let's see. Man OS Time says, I find it funny that people are making comparisons about Clayface, but nobody said anything about a better man. Sounds like haters are just hating. Well, they always do. Oculus Cypher says Jim Carrey. Well, that could be interesting. That I don't know if that was, well, he wasn't like a thriller before. What was that? Was that number 23 or something like that? So maybe he could do it. Maybe. I don't know. I think that this is going to be a fun movie. I do. I really think this will be a fun movie. I think that this is going to be something different than what we've ever seen before when it comes to comic book movies within an established universe. I think this is a really cool idea. And I give James Gunn and Peter Safran a lot of credit for taking a chance with something like this, because it is something so different. It is something that is going to set them apart from what the DCEU did and what Marvel is doing. And that's exactly what they need to do. And that's what I'm excited about. But I'd love to see what your casting ideas would be for Clayface in the comments. So make sure you leave in the comments who you think you would want to see cast as Clayface. Who do you think would be an A-list actor that would fit that role? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. All right. Moving on. What's the next thing that I got here? Let's see. Okay. So Brave New World, guys. So we're going to move on to talking about Captain America, Brave New World. And like I said, I'm going to talk about this movie. I'm going to do a little bit of non-spoilerish talk, and then we'll kind of get into some spoilerish talk. All right. So I'll let you know when I want to start talking spoilers. So if you don't want to stick around for that, you can skedaddle. But to start, I'll talk non-spoilers. All right. So is Captain America Brave New World the Marvel blockbuster that we were hoping for? Like, was it a return to form for Marvel? Or were the reviews kind of accurate? And is it a letdown, back to the normal letdowns that Marvel has been over the last few years? So I'm going to go over the characters. I'm going to go over review or the visuals. I'm going to go over the box office numbers, how it overall connects to what we think this movie is going to finish like, how it connects to the overall universe. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on the movie. And then I'll give you where it sits, in my opinion, in the Captain America quadrilogy, as well as the overall MCU. But as always, let me know what you guys think about it. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, follow me for more and all that kind of stuff. If you want more of this stuff, because I don't typically do reviews, but I want to try start doing more reviews for all you guys. So let me know. I want to know if you guys like reviews. So make sure you let me know in the comments below. So Captain America Brave New World sees Sam Wilson as the new Captain America. Now, that is a big change, because we saw Chris Evans playing Steve Rogers as Captain America for over 10 years, essentially. No, not over 10 years, but 10 years, essentially, playing Captain America, almost 10 years. And it was quite a ride. It was an excellent ride. Now, Sam Wilson was became Captain America essentially in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show that came out a few years ago. And he struggled with picking up the shield in that show. In this movie, he is right into it. He is right into being Captain America, but finds himself kind of stuck in the middle of a conflict that's going on with America and Japan, and it's something that's going on because of the celestial being that came out of the Indian Ocean, and because of that, he needs to really find himself and where his place is as Captain America now. General Ross, now played by Harrison Ford, is kind of the catalyst in starting all of this story. And I have to say it's an interesting push. It is an interesting push in that regard. So anyways, what's the good? Okay, because I could go through the story beat by beat, and for me, I don't like to do that with reviews, because then I just tell the whole movie, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody. So let me get into the good. First off, the good. Anthony Mackie, I think, was absolutely great in the role of Captain America. And I don't think that was much of a surprise, because he is a really, really good actor. And I think he stood out to me. He really gives off a great screen presence and is really showcasing that he is a leading man, that he can take this franchise on his shoulders and move forward. And I think that was refreshing. I think that was important to showcase, because let's face it, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was not his show. That was him. It was Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. This movie was 100% Sam Wilson. This was Captain America. This was his movie to show, like, this is me. This is my movie. This is me. I'm the lead. And I think he did that. Harrison Ford was a solid take, or was a solid pickup, and his take on General Ross was good. The fact that he had to replace the late William Hurt, I mean, I'm a huge Harrison Ford fan. I've been a fan of Harrison Ford since I was 9-10 years old, watching Indiana Jones, watching Star Wars, watching the old Jack Ryan movies. I mean, anything that, when I was a kid, anything that I could find that said Harrison Ford stars in, I watched it as a kid. Like when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I was watching it because I am a huge Harrison Ford fan. But lately, it seems like he sometimes phones it in. But there's those rare instances where you can see that he kind of like something clicks in him and he really buys into it. Like that show Shrinking on Apple TV Plus. He is phenomenal in that show. He does okay. He's not just phoning it in, but he's also not the best Harrison Ford that he could be. He did good. He did good. Okay, he did good. This one's going to be a little controversial for sure. This one will be controversial. Shira Haas. She's the Israeli actress. I really thought she was good. She plays President Ross's security advisor, Ruth Bat Seroff. I thought that she did a really good job. Is she a great actress? She could probably have been a better actress. But I liked what they alluded to for her backstory. Now, if you know the comics, you know who she is, you understand what she is, why she is, who she is, that kind of thing. But I think she did well enough. She intrigued me enough to sit there and say, I want to see more from her in the MCU. I just hope that these people out in the real world, in this world, don't screw that up. Because I did really enjoy what she brought to the film. And like I said, I want to see more of what she could bring. And again, some people have this thing because she's Israeli that it's somehow we can't support her and we can't like what she did in the film because she's Israeli. And it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous, and people need to stop with that. But I think she did a really good job. Now, I also liked a couple things. Again, these are not spoilers. The story idea of the world working on a peace treaty to share the adamantium from the celestial island, but the deal falling apart and nearly causing a war. I thought that was intriguing. However, the fact that that happened 3 years ago and it took 3 years for this to all play out, eh, like I said, it's an intriguing aspect and idea, but it took 3 years to get to this. Yeah. And then Torres and Wilson's relationship, I think, was phenomenal in this movie. It reminded me of Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers, slightly on a different level, but they had a good buddy relationship, and it needed that. You needed to have that relationship, so you have your Captain America and your Falcon having a friendly buddy relationship, and I think it really worked. So for me, those are like the clear points in the movie that really worked. The bad, though, there are some bad. The pacing, it was kind of all over the place. There were parts of this movie where I'm just kind of bored. I took my son to the movie with me, and he actually fell asleep at one point. I had to like elbow him, like, wake up, dude. But it's kind of like moments are just really slow, and then it just picks up and it's just fast, and then it's really slow. It's kind of all over the place. You can kind of tell that there are moments that were pieced together. And there's people that were trying to sit there and say, "Oh, you can't even tell that this movie was pieced together from reshoots." And no, you can definitely tell. Um, the main villain, who is the leader technically from the comics, which he's never actually called that in the movie, not that I can remember. I was trying to like wait for them to mention it, and they never did. But he felt underutilized. And I think my biggest issue with him is he felt like a copy of Baron Zemo. Like his mission, or his what he was doing, almost felt like Baron Zemo from Civil War. It was, he didn't get his hands dirty. It was, hey, I'm going to do XYZ to make XYZ happen. And because this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. Again, I'm trying not to be spoilery here. And to me, I'm kind of like, well, that's exactly what Baron Zemo was doing in Civil War. Like, really? And then you also have Sidewinder. Oh, well, here, it's before I get to Sidewinder, because Sidewinder kind of fits in with this, because he's the one that really makes this big mention, because Sidewinder was also a waste of a character. But he mentions at one point, like, oh, this person says that you have there was a 38 or 78% chance, or 75% chance that you would do this. Well, he's talking about the leader. And it's like, okay, that's kind of the whole shtick with him, is that he works on percentages because he's so smart, and he realizes that there's X percentage of chance of this happening, so he's going to do this. So that's what makes it slightly different than what Baron Zemo was doing, because that was kind of the big complaint about Civil War, is everything was just based on happenstance. Everything just, if it just happened. Well, with this, at least, he's going based on, the percentages. It's still stupid. It's still stupid. Anyway, but Sidewinder was also a waste of a character, played by a great actor, but wasted character. Now, granted, I will say this should have been put up with the bad, but I don't want to spoil anything, or up with the good. This shouldn't be with the bad, but I'll save this for the spoiler option, because I don't want to spoil anything. I also will say this in the bad: the marketing gave way too much away. Way too much away. There was too much given away in the marketing. Like, why? Why give away so much in the marketing that you gave away? The whole point of this movie is building up to Red Hulk. That is exactly what this movie is building up towards. Like, honestly, Red Hulk is coming. That is exactly what this whole movie is building towards. From the beginning of the movie until the end. almost every step of the way, you're like, oh, okay, it's building to this. I know it's happening, and you know it's happening at this point because we saw it in the trailers. So you know every single moment of the way up to that, you know when it's going to happen. The trailers gave too much away. This is a case where the marketing was bad. This is a true case of where they truly gave away too much in the marketing. And it was bad. It was very, very bad. And finally, no, not finally, I have two more things. I am so over the nanotech, way over the nanotech. I said this a couple weeks ago. I'm going to say it now. Nanotech is old. It's done. It's outdated. It's terrible. It looks bad when it's used. It looks bad. I'm sorry. It's not original. It looks terrible. It's not exciting. It doesn't look cool. Nothing about it is good anymore. Like, I get it when Black Panther had it, or I get it when Tony Stark had it. But the fact that everybody has it now does not make it cool, does not make it intriguing, does not make it cute, does not make it fun. It's just a ploy, a cheap way now to not have to come up with cool designs on the spot, not have to give a helmet, not have to do this. Like, come on. It's cheap, it's ridiculous, it's not cool. I'm sick of it. Which leads me to my final point, which is visuals. The visuals were horrendous in this movie. There are many, many times that you can tell where this movie was reshot. First of all, simply you can tell when two characters were not even shot. They were shot separately, like, days, weeks, who knows, apart. That's one. Two, you can tell when green screens were used, which is outrageous to me. Even if it's not green screens, maybe it was the volume or a type of volume that they used. But the fact that it looked that bad, not just one scene, not two scenes, but multiple scenes throughout the movie, things looked as bad as it did, that's concerning. Now, I know that they said that this movie only cost $180 million, which I think is complete BS, but what did they use that on? Harrison Ford? Like, did they spend it all on Harrison Ford? Because I'm telling you, it was not good. It was not good. Yeah. So before I get into my spoiler talk, let's kind of take a look at something here. Okay. So Brave New World, for its domestic opening, has made $87 million. Worldwide, 192, which is not terrible. Domestically, not great. Now, let's kind of look at something here, okay? And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I think it's kind of important. In comparison, the domestic opening for the first Avengers, Captain America: First Avenger, was 65 million. So when you kind of think about it, 87 million compared to the first Captain America, 65, that's good. But let's not forget that this came out in 2011 compared to 2025. Different times, for sure. Captain America: Civil War, though, opened with 179 million domestically. And then we also have the latest Marvel movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, which opened to $211 million domestically. Okay. So that is kind of not good. But how bad is it? The Marvels opened with $46 million opening weekend. This is domestically, guys. Domestically. Eternals opened with $71 million. Ant-Man Quantumania opened with $106 million opening weekend. Thor: The Dark World opened with $85 million opening weekend. And Iron Man 2 opened with $128 million opening weekend. Prior to Captain America, those are the 5 lowest openings for a Marvel movie. Okay? So I wanted to go over that. Now, hear me out. $87 million is not bad. Let's also not forget, or not, does it not want to load for me? Oh, man. Let me pull this up again. It doesn't want to load for me. Let's not forget This here, I showed this a couple weeks ago or a few weeks back. The current medium for superhero movies as of 2024 is $453 million box office. Okay. So that's the medium. So when you're looking at a superhero box office movie, you're looking at it probably making 450, give or take some. Okay. So why am I bringing this up? Well, if Captain America Brave New World makes 87 million in its opening weekend, it's worldwide made 192, which is not bad. The Marvels opened with 46 million and finished with 206 million worldwide. But let's take a look at one that it's more close to. Thor the Dark World, which opened with $85 million opening weekend. Almost exactly this. They finished with 644 million worldwide, which would be over that medium, which would be a success. It would be a success for them. That's if that $180 million they said they spent on making this movie is accurate, which I don't think it is, but that's what they say. So that's kind of what you can look at when you sit here and take a look at things. That's kind of what you can look at. Now, where do I sit? Like, what do I think about this movie? Like, I want to kind of get into the spoiler stuff here, but before I do that, I'll give you guys my ranking of this movie. First off, this is my ranking for Captain America films. Right here. Oh, wait, I should probably pull up my sharing screen thing. So, number 1 is Winter Soldier. Number 2 is The First Avenger. Number 3 is Brave New World. And in last place is Civil War. Brave New World to me is not that bad of a movie. Is it great? Is it the best Captain America? No, it's not the best. Is it the worst? No, it is not the worst. It's not a terrible film. It has its flaws. It absolutely does. It has its flaws, but it's not the worst movie. Like, I was entertained for the movie. It doesn't like I mean the time, like the first time I watched it, or the only time I've watched it so far, I didn't feel like I was being preached to. Like, I didn't feel like there was any agenda being pushed on me or anything. Like, I felt like this was an okay film. It was an enjoyable film, and I was entertained to a point. What about ranking it in my overall rankings of Marvel films? Well, you can find this all on Letterboxd, and I rank it number 24 out of 30. What is it? 35 films. It's up to. It's number 24 is where I have it at, which again isn't terrible. It's not terrible. I have it above the first Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Marvels, Wakanda Forever, Thor Ragnarok, Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Thor the Dark World, Iron Man 3, Civil War, and Thor Love and Thunder. So for me, I mean, it's not the worst of the Marvel movies, but it's definitely not the best. It's not one that I would run and watch again unless, like, I'll probably watch it once it comes on Disney Plus one more time. And then after that, I probably won't watch it again for any other reason unless I do an entire watch through. I don't like to put a star rating of, or like, give it like 4 stars, 5 stars, 10 stars, anything like that. But I did do it with this, and I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. This is pretty much the only place I really give things stars to, is on here. It's on my Letterboxd. So I would say 2.5 out of 5 stars is probably where I would put it for sure. Yeah. But let me know your thoughts. If you saw it, let me know what you guys think. I'm going to quickly talk some spoilers about Brave New World here. So if you don't want to stick around and hear the spoilers, you can skedaddle. If you want to stick around, that's fine. Just know that I'm going to probably spoil some things for sure. Let me tell you, if you've seen it and you want to talk spoilers, you can bring them up in the comments here. Derpy says, I agree, Slav. 100% ranking. Number 1, Winter Soldier. Yes. Jalen says, Slav, you hurt me with putting Civil War last. Yeah, I know, guys. And Trayvon says, Brave New World over Civil War. Blasphemy. I'm sorry, guys. I legitimately do not like Civil War. I've told you guys that many, many times. Look, I even showed you Civil War is number 34 on my ranking. Look, and it's a half a star for me. A half a star is what I rank that. It's the same ranking as Thor: Love and Thunder. Yes. Derpy says Giancarlo Esposito is such a great Brainiac, such a waste of an actor on Marvel. I mean, he still could be Brainiac. You never know. Never know. Jeez. Critic Chris says Stearns kind of looked like a zombie out of Beetlejuice. I was anxious to see him. Yeah, I like Stern as the leader. Like I thought he looked pretty cool. I think that his story was a little underutilized. I think he could have been utilized a lot better. Like I said, everything about his story, again, this is spoiler territory. A lot of things about his story was really, unfortunately, reminiscent of Baron Zemo, even down to how he manipulated soldiers and everything and utilized them to do his dirty. I mean, that was what Zemo did to Bucky. Now he just did it on a larger scale. Then how he went and was planning on, carrying out this thing on utilizing the Hulk or the Red Hulk, General Ross to cause havoc, wreak havoc, and make it look bad to bring down a deal, to bring down Ross, to bring down the government, to bring this down, to make people look bad, just like Baron Zemo brought down the Avengers the same way. It's like they basically tried to copy what everybody believes is the best movie, Civil War, which is not, and put it here for some reason. And it just didn't make any sense. Like, it was like, why don't you be a little more original? Again, it's not a terrible movie. It's just, it felt so similar to that in that regard. And it was kind of disappointing. It was just a little disappointing. Excuse me. Man. I don't know. Watcher, you've been saying a lot of stuff here. I wish I could catch up. Derpy says, you want to know what is sad, Slav? The Flash was the same boat of bad CGI and rewrites and reshoots, but since it's Marvel, it gets the credit. Hey, look, I say it all the time. I enjoy the Flash. I think the story was a lot of fun. The CGI, I said it was bad CGI for that movie. I think the CGI was worse in the Flash than this, but the CGI and the visuals were bad here too. But it definitely was worse in the Flash. Oh man. What else we got? Manos Time, what are your thoughts about the guy who made Brave New World being the same guy as writing maybe the Secret Six, the Deathstroke and Bane movie? I don't know what what constituted all the rewrites, what happened to the not rewrites, but the reshoots and the rewrites and stuff like that. Was it that it was just so bad? They say that they had some test screenings that weren't very good. I'd like to I wish I could see what Serpent Society was going to be, or a New World or New World Order, whatever it was originally called, or how many names it had. Also, what did Brave New World even mean? Like, I don't even understand what the title means for the movie. Honestly, what does Brave New World even mean for this movie? I don't know, but yeah. Critic Chris says, I agree about Stearns being similar to Baron Zemo. He really was. Tito says, you like Ant-Man and Wasp over Ant-Man? I do. I actually like the second Ant-Man better than the first Ant-Man. I've never liked the first. It was too much. What's the guy's name? The guy who talks really, really fast and is stupid in the comedic relief in that movie. I can't stand him. Lewis? Yeah. It's too much of him in the first Ant-Man. I don't like him. Manuel's Time says, I felt like Brave New World was just an exposition dump until the last act. That I think that had to do with the pacing. I think your problem there was because of the pacing. Because it really was. There was like action, and then it was just exposition dump. And I think that's why my son fell asleep, because it was just like, here's a scene where it's just for 5-10 minutes. It's just a bunch of people talking about what's going on. And then you get a little action scene that was like really fast paced and cool. And then it was just another 10-minute long of exposition. And you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. Uh, Critic Chris says I'd place them in that order, except I'd switch Civil War and Brave New World. I like Brave New World more than the Marvels, Eternal, Shang-Chi, Thor: The Dark World. The Watcher says, "Bro, you got Brave New World over Volume 2 Guardians of the Galaxy. Come on, bro. I'm just playing, but I'm also serious." I really look, as much as I like Guardians of the Galaxy, the second one, with the exception of the beginning of that movie with Baby Groot dancing around, I'm not a big fan of that movie. I don't know what it is. I've tried to watch it multiple times. Um, I don't, I get bored with it. I get bored with that movie. I don't know why. I like what the movie is. I say this all the time. Like I like the beginning of the movie. The end of the movie is all right. I think it's just the story. I don't like the story with Ego and Peter. I think that's all it is. I just get bored with it. I don't know. It has nothing to do with anything but that. I think it's the weak. I've said this all the time. I think it's the weakest out of the three, or four if you count the holiday special. I don't know. Oh man, whoops. Oh, and then the post-credit scene. Ah, yes. The post-credit scene was ridiculous. It was terrible. It was stupid. It was just dumb. Now I know a lot of people are a little like upset about it. Where Stearns goes, he talks to Sam Wilson on the raft, and he's like, "Oh, you and the Avengers, you can protect this Earth, or you can protect this, but what if other Earths or something like that? Can you protect yourselves from other Earths and stuff?" Like basically saying Secret Wars is about to begin. And somebody said it best. That would be like at the end of the first Captain America, where somebody like General Ross or somebody came up to Captain America, was like, "Can you protect yourself from a big purple alien?" and then walked away. Like, that's how dumb it is. Like, it is really stupid. It wasn't a great end credit scene, for sure. Definitely one of the weakest. Jalen, I have not been watching Invincible. I watched the first season when it first came out. I have yet to watch a second or third season. I do need to watch it, though. The Watcher says, "I don't care for the Ant-Man films really at all because it's not Hank Pym. Instead of using young Hank and showing how much of a genius he is, instead they chose Scott Lang in an MCU fashion, made him a joke." Yeah, I would have preferred Hank Pym myself, but all right. I'm gonna get out of here, guys. This was real. Thank you for joining me today. It was a fun one. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in the comments. We actually didn't talk Superman today. That's a first. Real quick, last comment I'll talk about. Tito says, "It was honestly a win-win for me. Brave New World is good. Then the writer working on the Deathstroke and Bay movie will cook. If it's bad, then as a hardcore DC fan, I'm satisfied." All right. Well, there you go. All right, guys. But yeah, I'm going to head out of here. Thank you guys for watching. With all that said, I will catch you all later.